Welcome, amazing real estate professionals and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, May 2nd, 2019, and this is Mastermind call number 226. I want congratulations to our winners of the week last week. Allison and Kevin Herron had two great new probate listings, so they are our winners of the week, and we do that every week, guys. The only requirement, we want to hear your wins as far as good responses and what's working on the phone, but to qualify for winner of the week, it actually has to be a contract signed or a listing taken. It's actually got to be a deal to qualify. But don't let that stop you from contributing anything else that you'd like to contribute on these calls. Also, we had a really good role play call. As you all know, our coach Chad is off in Kathmandu in Nepal this week, but Tim and I hosted a role play call yesterday with great participation, some really good role play scenarios, and there was a couple questions on that call that we said we would research, like the vacant property insurance that Chad often recommends, and our amazing social media coordinator, Director Kat, found the information, and when she posted the role play call yesterday, she put links to those items that were requested on the call. So if you're on the call yesterday and you were looking for that information, it is on Facebook with the recording of the call from yesterday. And Tim, while I kind of babbled on there for a minute, we got 3 people in the queue, so that's a good thing. Anything you want to share with the group?
Nope, not a bit. Let's get on with the calls and see what anybody has to say. This is about them, not us, so let's do it.
All right, plenty more room, guys. Hit *6 and hit 1. Tom, you're on the call also. I think I heard you in the background. Tim, I'm getting quite a bit of feedback. If you're on speakerphone, I think it's coming from you. If you can pick up, there we go, that's better. All right, we got 4 people in the queue now. First up this week is phone number ending in 5500. You're up first. Are you there? Area code 936. Phone number ends in 5500. Unmute yourself. We had this problem yesterday. Everybody took them about 10, 15 seconds to unmute. Last call for phone number ending in 5500. Are you there? All right. If you are, then just hit *6 and hit 1, and you'll go to the end of the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 1144.
Hey, hey, it's Joe Lehman, Montgomery, Alabama.
Hey, Joe. Yes, sir.
I had my first situation where the personal representative, the deceased, was her daughter. It was the week that would have been her daughter's birthday, and she was obviously, somewhat emotionally distraught. And it was a very quick call. There wasn't any, it wasn't ugly or anything. It was just she was not in a position to really talk at that point. And it was a real quick call. But I'm just wondering, in those kind of situations, is there any guidelines for how long you should wait before you make your next call?
No, Joe, you're an old pro. You've been doing this almost as long as I have, and I would say go with your gut. I mean, yeah, we've had people call situations where it was a child that died, and death is always difficult, and there's always grief involved. That's a particularly tough one because we all hope that we will outlive our children, and when that doesn't happen, it's difficult. How did you leave it with her? Did you ask if you could call back, or did she say that was okay, or how did you end the call?
No, I ended the call with that I would be back in touch, and I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't do a time or in 2 weeks or anything of that nature, but I kind of put it back into the system with a lead follow-up for 2 weeks from that date.
Yeah, it's funny.
Probably 2 weeks was about right.
Yeah, honestly, that was my gut too. I think maybe a week might be a little bit too soon. A couple weeks down the road is is probably pretty good. And, you know,
Plus,
when you call back,
she would probably get the second mailing. She was in my first batch, so she would get the second mailing before I call her back. So
perfect.
I think that's, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
I think that's all right, sir. Well, good job. I know you're pretty new to the program, but you're not new to real estate, and you're taking massive action. So come back and let us know when you start taking the listings.
Having good success with attorneys.
Are you? Tell us about it, Joe. What are you doing with the attorneys, and what kind of success are you having?
Two of them I have. I set appointments to see, and just went in and introduced the program. Told them that we offer a lot of services, you know, other than just assisting with the real estate. Gave them my brochure. One of them allowed me to set up a brochure rack with my cards and the brochures in it at the reception desk. The other one is in one of those kind of mutual, they share expenses, but they're not really partners kind of situation. So
sure.
I couldn't really put my brochure thing up there. I cold called on three others. None of the three were there, and one, his office was completely shut up, but one, I actually had a very good conversation with his wife and set an appointment to go back and see this week coming up. The other one, I left information with the receptionist who said they would have him call me. I'll follow up with that one. And the third one, I just got to call and follow up with. But
great,
so
good job. That's excellent.
I'm going to try to get to at least 5 attorneys a week until I get through all the ones that are showing up and as doing probates. And it seems to be pretty scattered. There's only a couple that, you know, are showing up with more than maybe one in my first 2 batches of leads. My
That's
first
great.
batch had 48 records, and the second had 60. So it's pretty good group. I've had my first 2 visits to homes where we're providing advice and assistance of what to do to get the personal property out and prepare the home, and I'm doing the spreadsheet form with the 3 different ways you can sell the property for those 2. So I think I'm getting real close to getting my first listing out of it. So I'll be I think I'll be about maybe 10 days into my second batch of leads when I get my first listing, and then after that, I think I'm probably going to start pulling 3 to 5 a month pretty easy.
Boy, that's great. Good.
Because it's really stacking up.
Yeah, good for you, Joe. But you're keeping up with it, and people ask all the time, what should I do, the executors or the attorneys? And of course, the answer is both. So you're averaging about 50 some leads a month, and there's not too many duplicates. So would you say there's 20 attorneys per month, 20 different ones? Is that, or more than that?
You know, I probably need to count that, but I would say, yeah, at least 20 different ones.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
So
probate is a specialty. So if they do one, I guarantee you they're all doing more than one a year. You know, not too many attorneys do divorce, family practice, and probate. They usually tend to specialize in family planning or estate planning or probate niche. So that's great. It should be a lot of repeat business for you. Were you on the role play call yesterday, Joe?
I was unable to make it because I had those appointments.
Okay,
Make it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're making good contact. You're doing a good job of establishing rapport when you get there. And there was a little conversation, a little role play with attorneys on the call yesterday, and we had said, just like someone had said, well, an attorney was kind of abrupt and didn't really want to hear this presentation. What do you do? And we said it's really very similar to the executor. Just throw a good open-ended question out there. With the executor, we say, what's the most difficult part of this process for you so far? With the attorney, just a question like, if there was one thing that really isn't your job that you could get off your plate, what would it be? and then just shut up. Tell him, let him tell you how you can best help him, and then
Right.
focus back on that. So, good job, man. Great job at taking massive action out of the box, and keep coming back and sharing with us every week. We appreciate it.
And by the way, the CRM that's in the system is real easy. I think it's pretty easy to use, and I'm really using that with the lead follow-up dates and all. So that's a big help.
Great. And you can do not call, do not mail in there. That makes it real easy too. It doesn't it doesn't wipe out the lead, it just hides it. So you don't go back and duplicate your efforts. Yep. All right. Well, if you had a deal, you'd be up for winner of the week, but I have a feeling you will be in a couple weeks. Thanks for sharing, buddy. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Take care. Next up is phone number ending in 6677. You're up next.
Hey, gentlemen, this is Clayton calling back. We spoke yesterday about approaching the probates, and I went right on, approaching the probate lawyers, and I went right into start designing a trifold, and I picked out a couple of lawyers, local lawyers that have a pretty high volume of probate transactions, and I'm going to be hitting those offices next week with those pretty trifold brochures, so I appreciate that direction. I wanted to kind of reach out and ask about agents. So again, by approaching agents, because I've never done a transaction like this, and I'm pretty green to the industry, do they have is it a similar approach to kind of how you just spoke to the last caller, just kind of introduce the services and be like, hey, I'd love to work with you because I'm an investor, and I want to be able to kind of work with, as Chad, talks about in the Probate Mastery, I want to work with agents, so it's a win-win-win relationship from the client to me to the agent. Is this landing?
Yeah, no, you're on the right track there. You approach the agent that you can provide value to them and make it a reciprocal agreement. Hey, I get on the, I send out letters, I get on the phone every day calling executors. My goal is to buy the property, but we all know that probably only about 10% of them have a hardship, and 90% of them I can't help. Would it be okay if I referred the other 90% to you? We've got several hundred realtors on the call. There isn't one of them that wouldn't say yes. I'll take all you can send me. And the nice thing for you, Clayton, what you should expect back from the realtor is, those people may not have an urgency now, but the agent you refer them to might list it, and 2, 3, 4 months down the road, if it hasn't sold yet, they may be a little more motivated, and they may be looking for an investor offer. So just make sure the realtor understands it's a reciprocal agreement. You're going to refer these people to them, but should the need for an investor arise down the road, that you absolutely want to be the first one that they call. And it's a win-win relationship all the way around. And Clayton, I would post in our. Are you in our All the Leads Mastermind group?
Not yet. No, not yet. I'm kind of waiting for the May probate mastery thing, and then I'm kind of jumping off that, start to kick that up.
Okay, all you got to do is go to Facebook and go to All the Leads Mastermind and request to join the group, and we'll let you in. But I was going to suggest just put a post there that, hey, I was on the call today. I'm an investor. I'm looking for a great realtor in whatever county you're in, and I guarantee you'll get a response or two, or maybe 3. Hopefully you'll get somebody who's already on the call and who's probably listening today. That might be a good place to start.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, sir. Appreciate it. We got 3 more in the queue, guys. We got plenty of room for more. Don't be shy. Hit *6 and hit 1, and you'll be up next. Next up is phone number ending in 6818. You're up next.
Hi, Jim. This is Grant from Chicago. How are you today?
Great, Grant. Another frequent flyer on the calls. We appreciate you participating.
Yeah, no problem. So first, a quick comment and then a question. We spoke last week about building attorney relationships, and I think it's definitely an underutilized piece of my business that I'm marketing and investing in. But one thing that I wanted to say is I didn't realize, but with a probate case in Illinois, one of the documents that the title company requires is what's called letters of office, which indicates it appoints the executor to have the authority to sell and go through the process. So I thought that would be one kind of tip we could do to find out in your state, just by calling the title company, see what they request, and it may put you a step up with the attorneys if you kind of know your shit beforehand.
Yep.
And then secondly, question, and you already alluded to it, and I can look back on the replay from the role play yesterday, but I'm starting to build a relationship with an attorney, but he doesn't do any real estate. He strictly does probate and guardianship.
Right.
I did speak with his wife, and she's the office manager and I think runs the show over there. And she alluded to the fact that, that's like what they concentrate in. That's what they do. They spend a ton on SEO. And after looking at their stats, I mean, he's a pretty heavy hitter with probate, but, I want to be able to explore the business relationship and be able to refer clients back to them. And she kind of alluded to the fact, well, if we don't do real estate, kind of what's in it for them besides a happy and satisfied client. So I guess besides asking them what could we do to, get something off your guys' plate, I mean, what else would you suggest to help promote, our unique selling proposition for them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and the fact that they don't do real estate probably works to your advantage. I mean, you can use your regular title company or, whoever you use to do closings on a regular basis, but do they most probate attorneys also will do estate planning and set up trusts and that kind of thing? Do you know if they do that, or are they just strictly probate?
I don't know for sure. He's obviously familiar with it, but that was one thing that I had possibly thought about. Yeah, I was asking, and then what do your clients do as far as estate planning goes? I don't know if he does that or not. I don't believe so, but I haven't confirmed.
Okay. Yeah, if probate is their, if they're a one-trick pony and that's all they're doing, then, I mean, your value to them obviously is to take everything non-real estate related off their plate and free him up to do more probate deals. I would suspect, I mean, not always, but most attorneys that do probate also do some type of estate planning, setting up trusts, living trusts, family trusts, and if he does do that, that's a no-brainer. You could, if you call your sphere of influence every month, say, hey, I started working probates, and it just amazes me. I mean, we always use the example of very smart man, Steve Jobs. All of his property had to go through probate. He did not have a living trust. So everybody probably should have one if you have assets, but only 5% of Americans do. So when you're prospecting your sphere, you could offer that as a service. You came across this great attorney that'll make sure that the family, doesn't have to go through the probate process when they pass, and then refer those people back to him. But if he doesn't, then, it's just basically that you're going to provide all those services and do a great job for his clients. So number one, it'll reflect well on him if he refers people to you. And secondly, it'll take all the non-legal stuff off of his plate, free him up to, to do more probate deals. The vast majority of probate attorneys do not charge hourly. Most of them charge a flat fee. There's many states where it's mandated the maximum that you can charge. So, typically, they're going to charge anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000. So, that if they have to spend 200 hours on it, or you come along and help them spend a lot less time on it, they're still going to make the same amount of money, and you can actually help them be more, efficient with their income per hour if you take the non-legal stuff off their plate. Make sense?
Perfect. Yeah, no, that does. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll definitely apply that and let you know how it goes.
All right, awesome. Thanks as always for participating, Grant. We have 3 more in the queue, guys. Plenty of room for more. We'll cut the queue off in about 10 minutes, so jump in now. Just hit *6 and hit pound. And, oh, we just lost one, so we're down to 2. Whoever you were, come back. Hit *6 and hit pound. Next up is phone number ending in 5014. You're up next.
Good afternoon, Mike in South Texas here. I haven't been able to get on for about the last 3 weeks, so you guys have probably covered this. But the do not call list is starting to show up, obviously, now that you guys are auditing with the new leads. And when I click on the do not call disclaimer, I just get an error 404 that page is not available. And I'm really not clear on what I can and can't do if they're on the do not call list.
All right, I have a comment or two. And Tim, do you want to address the error issue? Are you aware of that?
Unaware completely. I'll take a look.
Okay. It's a tough, it's a sensitive area, Mike. I will tell you, we've been doing this for almost 5.5 years now, and we estimate that our subscribers have probably made several million calls. To our knowledge, we're not aware of a single complaint, because when people agree to have their information put into the county records, they're kind of putting the world on notice that I'm the one to contact regarding this estate. Having said that, there was enough concern with brokers around the country and agents with the direction that, the efforts in Congress and everything with the do not call, that we just thought we would be proactive and give you the information and let you make the decision, whether to call or not. I also, and we can't encourage you to do something that's illegal, so it really has to be your call, and it's a very gray area. I like to share the story. I used to coach for Mike Ferry, and one of my clients got a letter from the FCC, said it's come to our attention that you called someone, you've been calling people on the do not call list. We don't have the manpower to investigate individual complaints, but if you're doing it, please don't do it anymore. I mean, that was the consequence. To our knowledge, they don't typically pursue individual, violations. They tend to go after the big boys that are making millions of calls. But so we sort of posted that there for your use, and you kind of have to decide how you want to use it. Tim, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the main issue that I think we need to deal with is this, and explain to you kind of why we're doing this the way we're doing it. Sort of the whole point here with all of this is we're basically trying to be good citizens. We're doing what we need to be able to do to, one, make sure that we are appropriately disclaiming that we're giving you this information, but we are aware, in fact, that it's on the DNC list. As Jim said, the numbers are there for a reason. You're trying to contact that personal representative who is representing that estate, and you potentially are going to provide value to that estate, and it's going to be very difficult for somebody to make a hard issue out of doing that. Having said that, that's why we put the TCPA up there, and thank you for noting that. And the answer to your question is we're actually adding some additional information, Jim, per our conversation yesterday. We're making some changes as to how we're presenting that information on the user side, and we're just not quite done. When it's finished, that link won't error. So thanks for catching it, but it'll be done soon. But the other side of that is that from the standpoint of making those phone calls, when you get started and you're beginning to make the calls and you're calling the third person in the third column on the list, the question that you need to basically begin with is, hey, I'm trying to find John Smith, not, hey, this is Mike, I'm a realtor in your county and I'm trying to buy houses and all that. Basically, you're simply looking for John Smith. If they don't know John Smith, don't know anything about him, well, then you're done. You hang up, terminate the call, and you have nothing to deal with. If it, in fact, is the personal representative and they have a problem with you calling them, then I would not waste any more time with them and say, hey, I'm sorry I got in touch with you. I just saw that you were the PR and wanted to reach out and see if there was anything I could go do. Again, we don't think you're going to have any problems doing that. We certainly don't want to put you in a position of legal jeopardy, but we also know that if it's in your county and you're trying to get in touch with them and they are the PR and you're providing a service, it's not all solicitation. There are things that you're offering to do to help and all of that. So, I mean, like Jim said, it is kind of a gray area. Individuals are highly unlikely to have any issues whatsoever, but we're doing our job to make sure that we give you that information and give it to you in the best way we can. As a company, we can't call them on your behalf because that does put us in a liability, because obviously we're using machine dialers to do some of the work we're doing, and there are specific parts of the TCPA that prohibit us from doing that. So we're being really careful, and what a lot of people are doing now is they're having us run through the list and literally grab the low-hanging fruit, which is a quick round to anybody that we can get, and then once we've done that and passed through it, then they're taking the list and moving forward with it on their own. And that may be a good way for you to go look at that. Again, not encouraging you to break the law or do anything else, but we're just trying to give you the best answers that we can give you, and we've done our due diligence by at least highlighting the ones that are on that list. One other quick thing to tell you is that in addition to, we've gone overboard on giving it to you in that we're giving you federal, state, and local do not call lists, and in some cases it goes down. There are, in fact, cities that decided to get involved in the ball game back a decade or so ago, so they put citywide or phone company-wide lists together. So they're definitely state and federal ones. There's also a known litigators database. We also work against that so that we're not putting phone numbers out there of people who just sit back and love to waste people's time by suing folks. So we're doing the best job we can to keep you safe, but you're in business to make money. So kind of got to leave it up to you, and that's the best answer we can give you. And I realize that's kind of weasel worded, but that's about the best we're going to be able to say from a legal standpoint.
Okay, so because I noticed a lot of the attorneys are on the DNC list as well, so it could easily be argued, hey, you as a matter of public record, you're on this. If it ever went to that point, I was just reaching out to help.
Yeah, and the issue with the attorney is that the attorney is an officer of the court, so the attorney has to, as an officer of the court, at least in most states, has to provide the ability as an officer of the court to be able to be contacted. The issue with that phone number is we're awfully good at getting the phone numbers, and so what we're pulling in many cases is not the office number for that attorney. We're actually getting their cell phone number for you, because we don't go deeply into the phone numbers for the attorney. We only give you one number, and quite often that is a cell phone number, and that's what they put on the DNC, so they publish their office number. So one of the things I might suggest that you do when you're pursuing the attorneys is, if you see an attorney who has 4 or 5 probate cases in your marketplace in a month, you know they're working multiples of these, they probably have a large family law practice. Before you call that cell phone number, I would look up their office number, see if it's a different number, and I'd start there rather than the cell phone number. And if you get them on the office number, you're good to go. If you don't, then try their cell phone number, see what you can do if, in fact, you want to try and reach out to them as an attorney. But in almost every case, any valid attorney in your market is going to have a published legal phone number on their website, and I'd use that.
Okay, super. Thanks so much.
All right,
Okay.
Appreciate it. Good job, guys. We got 4 more in the queue. Next up sounds like a very familiar phone number, ending in 2686. You're up next.
Hey guys, this is Kevin. How are you?
I thought that was you, Kevin. How you doing, sir?
Can you hear me?
Can hear you great.
Okay, it faded in and out. I've got a question about phone numbers that are provided by all the leads.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually submitted a ticket recently, but I need a more deeper explanation. What we're finding is, all right, you've got phone number 12345 in the leads, and it was explained to us that phone number 1 field was for the personal representative that the number they got from the courthouse, and then 2345 is from your system that goes out and scours the internet. What we're finding is when we have a large number of leads, you multiply that times, I'm going to say on average 3 or 3 point something is probably what it is. So out of say 200 leads you got to call, well now you're actually calling 600 plus phone numbers potentially. and that takes a ton of time. So what I'm trying to do is cut down, because when we find, all that's really important from what we're finding is the PR and their spouse. After that, yeah, we can talk to the people, but sometimes they don't know anything about it. They're, as you know, they're very reluctant anyway to give you any information. So you don't get too much past that. So what we've been trying to do is I'll go in and download to the dialer Excel file, and I'll go in and I'll manually take out people that I don't think is, the spouse, for example, or the PR, and try to at least cut it down to, it's still unmanageable, but it still saves several hours, right, of phone calls. So my question is there a better way to identify? What I'm looking for is phone number 1, phone number 2, maybe 3, whatever. And after that, it would be nice to know that I could cut those out if I needed to. But I'm not finding any consistency as to how they're populated. For example,
I'll take this. Is Tim. I'll take that as well. So when you say you're not finding in terms of how they're populated, are you saying that you might find one in position 1 and then not one in position 2, but there will be one in position 3 and 4, not one in 5? Is that what you're saying?
That's part of it. Or the actual PR will not be in either position 1 or 2. They may be later in the list there. Or, for example, I was just looking at one. His name was Paul, PR name of Paul, and it looks like his wife was in position 1, and then he had 3 numbers with his name on it in 2, 3, and 4, for example.
Sure. So here's the answer to and I got it. So here's the answer to your question. I'll tell you what we can and can't do. So one of the things that we are doing is we are doing what's called concatenation, which means we're going to be running a process, and we're just not quite done with this. It's one of the things we looked at the beginning of this week, and we constantly revise our process. So know that, I appreciate this information, and I'm going to take this to heart and make sure we ramp this up and get it done a little quicker. But we noticed a while back that we were leaving, it was in fact populating, maybe in some cases it'll populate the first one and the second one and leave 2 blanks and put somebody in the 5th one. Well, the reason for that is we use multiple sources for this, and they all go out, and what they try to find is an unduplicated number. So what we'll do is we'll run it through one of our processes, and it will come back with maybe a number in position 1 or 2, and then we'll run another one and it won't find one, and we'll run another process and it'll find it, and it happens that one is the one that we put in position 3, and then we'll find one in position 4. And so we run a lot of different structure or a lot of different processes to try to pull this information. What we're going to start doing is making sure that we don't leave gaps. So if we do that, there'll always be somebody in the first position, and the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 will be the rest of them. The gaps will be at the end. That would give you at least the ability potentially to, if you only wanted to take the first couple of columns thinking that might get you the best shot, that would be fine. That doesn't answer your second question, which is, which is which one and all of that. If we could give you that, we would. We can't. And it's not that we don't want to do it or we have some prohibition against doing it. What we go out and do is, if the record, as we said, if the record is on the court docket, that's the record we put in that first position because that's the way it comes to us. We don't change that one. So it's the ones in positions 2, 3, 4, and 5 that we actually will populate with additional information. And we don't know in regard to what those numbers are, what they are, or anything else. We simply know that they are phone numbers based on the process that we've put together with our suppliers. They use a champagne fountain to try to do this. They go out and find anyone who shows a reference point to that personal representative and that address. So sometimes it might even find someone who used to live at that address. It may not be the PR, it may not be it. We're trying to just give you the best shot of getting in touch with them. In your case, I would suggest, if you're really trying to cut this down and you're doing this yourself, I would maybe only try the first couple of columns and try that. But we can't give you any more or better data than we're giving you now, and we're giving you as much as we can. So if you tried the process and you don't get them in, the first couple of calls that you're making, I would then, by exception, maybe go back and look at those that you didn't and see if you excluded any numbers. But I would kind of do it from your standpoint, do it in a process so that I call the first column first, then I call the next column and work it that way. And I would only dig deeper if I don't get anywhere. And that ought to cut it down for you. I wish I could give you a better answer, but that's the best one we've got.
Okay, could we tweak it slightly? So here's real life. Let's say Paul is the PR and Mary is it's pretty obvious. It looks like his wife. Well, when Mary is ahead of Paul in your list, let's get you phone number 2, and you got 3, 4, and 5 with numbers for Paul. I mean, it's right there. You have his name. So what happens is you load it up in the dialer, and it'll call the spouse first, which, as you know, it's a little more difficult. I'd rather could you tweak your system to say, check your name, you have it right there. Could you check it against the PR? If it's a match, put those in the beginning phone numbers, and then whatever else you do. And
I'll take a look. That's a reasonable request. I'll take a look.
Yeah. It's just so daunting, as you know, to try to keep up with this stuff. It just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up, and it's
yep,
like,
I get it. I get it. That's it. Like I said, that's a very, very reasonable question, and I've made a note of it. I'm going to put it in, and we'll take a look at it. And I know we got a bunch of people in the queue, but that's a great suggestion. Let me see what I can do, and we'll take a look at it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
All right, 4 more in the queue. We close the queue. It should take us up to the top of the hour. Next up is phone number ending in 1223. You're up next.
Hey guys, this is James here. I'm calling Probates out in Cincinnati. I appreciate you taking the time. You guys are a well of knowledge and insight. So I have 2 very brief questions. One of them is pretty specific. One of them is more broad. I'm sure you've covered both of them before. I ran into both of them recently, so I just kind of wanted to maybe, brush up a little bit on it. The first one is there a specific technique, some kind of way to approach when the executor is actually a bank? Is there any, because a couple times I called where, the first one was an actual bank, I got the person's name, and when I called, I was confused thinking that the person was actually, it was actually their estate that they were in charge of, when actually it was just deeded or whatever to the bank. So the only thing I could think of, and this is kind of the main reason why I'm calling, was, because what she told me, she was very nice about it, but she basically said, I don't really see any value in any kind of services you could provide because, most banks, when we're the executors, we already have tons of, third-party service providers that we kind of go to. So my initial thought was like, well, hey, can we be one of your third-party service providers? I mean, how do you guys feel about that? What would you do in that situation?
Yeah, my initial reaction is, and we've talked about this on the calls before, it's a very small percentage of them. Have you come across that more than once, or was it just a one-off?
No, it was just that one thing. It was just the one time.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
probably 1% of the probates or less, that's going to be the case, and that is typically either the deceased didn't have a family member left that could do it, or they didn't have a family member that they trusted, or they just had some phenomenal relationship with this bank, and so they put them in charge. I would say it's such a one-off that I wouldn't spend too much time chasing after it.
Sure.
Tim, any thoughts on? I can't really think. It's like an REO. If you approach a bank that has an REO agent, it's pretty hard to get your foot in the door there. What did they say when you asked, could you get on the list? What was their response?
To be perfectly honest, I completely blanked it and didn't think of it till after I got off the call with the lady. And,
okay.
Yeah. So
that's a great reason to call back. And could I apply? I specialize in this. Could I apply to be on your list?
Sure, exactly. And I just kind of wanted to get, to see what you guys thought about that before I did.
Yeah.
Because, I think you're right. I think there's really kind of nothing to, do at that point.
Yeah,
well,
I tend to agree.
Like Jim said, I think it potentially is exactly what you said. I think you have potentially an opportunity with an open door to start probing a little bit and say, how do people get, if not me, how do people get on that list? Not just can I, but what's your criteria for that? What are you looking for? What kind of, how can people help you with that? And let them tell you. It might be easier for you to say, oh yeah, I do all those things. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's great.
Take that approach rather than saying, can I get on your list? Say, what are your criteria for that? And that might be helpful. And quite honestly, that'd be really helpful if you could do that and then come back on the call next week and tell us what you found out when you had that conversation, because that's something that could potentially not just help you, but help a bunch of other people as well.
Right. Yeah, man. Good point. Okay. Thank you, guys. My very last question, I'll be very brief. And I know you guys... First of all, let me preface it by apologizing. I'm sure you hear it a million times, but 90% of the calls, 95% of the calls is basically people saying, no, I'm good, I got it all covered, don't worry about it, like, thank you very much, but goodbye. So I've listened to a lot of the call recordings, a lot of the role playing, so I feel pretty confident on how to handle those. So I guess my question would be, is it worth trying to kind of stop somebody when you can feel that, because there's differences in calls. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, you know what, we got it all covered. And then they'll stop, and then they almost like wait for you to respond. And then there's the times when they're like, oh, you know what, hey, we got it all covered, I'm kind of busy, thanks for your time. You can tell they're literally like, physically on their way to hang the phone up. And when it's those, is it worth trying to kind of, I don't know, stop them, have some magical combination of words that might change their mind? Or, I mean, what do you guys think?
You've heard about the vacant insurance answer real quick, right? You've heard that before on the calls?
Oh, yeah.
On the one?
Oh, yeah.
That is, if they're just about to hang up, that's about the only thing that we've heard that works. A real pattern interrupt shocker to get their attention like that. Okay, great. Hey, before you hang up, really important, just want to make sure you got your insurance changed, and then just shut up. Or you got you switch your insurance policy and hang up. That might get their attention. The other ones, I know what you're saying. Often they're just giving you an objection, and you probably have time to give a longer answer and just go back into your presentation. Often, an objection, they're just saying, hey, I'm not quite sold yet. So if you feel like you have an opening, we talked about this on the call yesterday, just say, oh, okay, great, you got it all handled, I understand. I'm just curious. One of the things we hear often, I mean, you're 1,000 miles away from the property, and what we hear a lot of times from our clients is, they don't know what to do with all the stuff in the property. Have you got that taken care of? Start maybe suggesting things to them that maybe they hadn't thought about, or are a legitimate thing that they haven't taken care of, and maybe get past that reflex no. You know what I mean? The vacant property, I mean, the estate sale company being able to help them seems to be the showstopper if they're not local. Maybe not quite as much if they are local, but they're 1,000 miles away. They got a house full of stuff. They don't know what to do with it. We just real quick, hey, a lot of our clients tell us they're 1,000 miles away. They got a house full of stuff. They don't know what to do with it. Is there anything I can help you with there? Try to get it out real quick. Tim, can you think of anything else? The insurance, estate sale? Go ahead.
A couple things I'm going to say. First off is that, certainly keep in mind this most important point of all of this, which is that if you do nothing, if you're not able to get past where you're at, you're done, and that's the last time you're ever going to talk to them, and that means that lead is dead to you, and you didn't get anywhere with it. So anything that you can do is going to be better than certainly taking that and saying okay. The other thing I was going to say, and it's kind of the standard approach that anybody would take, but we haven't said it on this call, so I'll say it now, and that is if I were in that situation and what might get my attention is, okay, great, I'm glad to know that you've got it. Here's my reason for calling. I actually have a buyer who's looking to buy property on that street, and if you get it to the point you're ready to sell it, I really, really am interested in talking with you about it because he's interested in buying. And see what they have to say and stop. Don't say anything else.
Wow.
Just indicate that you got a buyer.
Nice.
And stop there.
And then go find the buyer, because I'm sure you got one, right?
And in a lot of cases,
exactly.
you're the buyer, or you've got an investor who's going to go do this. And if you're working with an investor, you haven't lied. You're right there where you need to be, and that right there will find out what the motivation is. If there's property there and they're ready to do something with it, you've got them.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And actually, as much of the calls as I've listened to, I haven't actually heard that, or I must have just filed it away in my brain. So I really appreciate the time, fellas. That was really helpful and insightful. And
Excellent.
I'm gonna look to call that bank, and hopefully, if I get a hold of them, I'll call back next week and kind of let you guys know what happened.
Excellent. Thanks
Good
for
job,
participating.
man.
Appreciate
Great
it.
questions.
Good job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure that ever has come up before. We new things come up on every call, so thanks for sparking the conversation. We have 3 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 3883. You're up next.
Hey, how you doing? It's funny that you guys actually have never gotten that question because I was just about to ask that question.
Is that great?
Thank you guys.
What is that thing? Things run in streaks of 3. Maybe the next guy was going to ask the same question too.
Probably,
That's great. Anything else we can help you with?
No, I'm just calling from Jersey. I'd like to thank you guys. I'm pretty new. Actually got on a start with I kind of got in the middle of the cycle, so I got some historic leads, and I'm just rolling. So far, everything is good. I mean, I usually tell people I'm buying the house because I double close on a lot of properties. I don't know if people are familiar with that. It's called transactional, using a transactional funder.
Sure.
But besides that, yeah, everything is pretty much clear. Everything's great. Everything's going great for me. Thank you guys.
Have you been through our fast track videos? Have you done your orientation call?
Yeah, I've done that. I actually just recently done that. I'm actually more than halfway done with the list so far. I had my my orientation call Saturday, so.
Great. The reason I ask, is that working out pretty well for you when you kind of lead with that you buy houses and you're looking to buy their house?
Yeah,
is that working?
I actually do. I actually prefer to buy houses. I think most people should look into buying and holding properties depending on what your market is, your area.
Sure. What I meant was, do you in the conversation with the executor, do you lead with that?
Yeah,
do you start?
Because most of the time people will say, hey, no, I already have a realtor. I was like, well, what do you need a realtor when you have a buyer on the phone right now? And then that usually changes the tempo of the conversation. Because I am technically you are buying the property. I mean if you're signing a contract, you're technically buying the contract out, but in a way, is if you're double closing, you're closing on the property and you're closing with the end buyer. So usually they don't find out till the day of closing, which nobody really cares. I mean, their goal is to get rid of it.
The reason I asked, the last thing I want to do is to tell you to change something if it's working for you. If you're getting good responses and it's working for you, it may be your personality, the way you present it. You just may be coming across to people as not being real threatening. But we usually recommend a little bit more generic approach, that, hey, I specialize in helping people that have inherited property, and there's a lot of different ways I can help you. So, you may want to.
For sure.
Yeah, okay.
I had a lady, and when I was telling her, she's like, oh, so you're a jack of all trades, I see. So, it works, like I said.
Okay, so you are doing that, but okay, that's great. Yeah.
But when it comes to people trying to rush you off the phone and telling you, I have a realtor, sometimes you might have to change,
sure,
and let them know that hey, I am a buyer, but whatever, it works either way.
Got it.
Thank you.
All right, good job. Appreciate you. Thank you. We got 2 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 6855. You're up next.
Hey guys, it's Cliff here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I have a question for you on a lot of times we'll be calling on the new list, that we got, and properties are already sold. We get a lot
Sure.
of already sold or already listed, and I'm wondering how much is there between, you know, when these things are picked up and when they're delivered to us?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. I'm in Plantation, so I'm your neighbor. And I have, when I had this idea 6 years ago, I worked this market, and it wasn't too much different back then. What is probably, to answer your question, first of all, we give you the probate as soon as it's filed. All of your probates are going to be filed within the last 30 days. What tends to happen in our market is there are investors that work the death certificates. So they've already got a contract on the property before the probate is filed. And, you know, we've sort of chosen not to go there because to us that is predatory to call somebody on the way home from the funeral and, you know, hey, I want to buy your house. But there are investors in our market that do that. They work the death certificates, they work the obituaries, and a percentage of them are going to be under contract before the probate's even filed. And there's nothing you can really do unless you want to call people immediately after the death. Other than that, I mean, there may also be cases where the family is just very proactive. You know, the mom died and they realized they needed to sell the house to provide for care for dad, and so they listed the property and have a contract on it before filing the probate. I mean, that happens. But the good news is there's still, I mean, what percentage of them would you say are sold? It's probably less than a third, maybe a third at the most. What would you estimate?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Less than a third.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is we don't get through to most of them, so I don't know what the percentage is, but the ones we got through to, about that third. Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So the good news is, you know, the glass is 2/3 full. You know, there's still plenty of people you can help. And the nice thing about working once the probate's been filed, the family, on average, it's 3 to 4 months from the date of death until the probate's filed. So typically the family is past the grief enough that they've made the business decision that they want to go hire an attorney and pay them and file the probate. So they're certainly in a better frame of mind, you know, to deal with you and more receptive to your call after the probate than, you know, immediately after the death.
All right. All right. Another
Make
question
sense?
for you.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the calls we make, we get a voice message, a voicemail opportunity.
Sure.
Do you recommend always leaving a voice message? I thought it.
You know,
hate to waste the phone call. I mean, as long as I got through the phone call.
And we've been asked this quite a bit. I know what Chad always says. It depends on how often you're going to call them. If you're going to call them 5 times this week until you get them, then probably don't leave a voice message. But if you're not going to call them back for a week or so, absolutely leave a voice message. And we highly. Sounds like you got a truck backing up there. You're not behind a garbage truck, are you?
I'm driving.
Oh, get out of the way, quick.
Here comes Cliff. Better move.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want you to be a probate while you're on the call, so be careful whatever's going on there. But as far as leaving an actual message, what we recommend, don't try to completely leave a 5-minute message and sell your services on the phone. I found when I worked Broward County, I found the more generic the message, the better. I would just leave a very generic message like, hey, this is Cliff. I noticed you're the executor of the John Smith estate. I had an important message or important matter I wanted to discuss with you. Give me a call. Very generic. Don't say whether you're a realtor, investor. I mean, kind of maybe subtly give the impression that maybe it's an official call without lying, but you know, important message I want to discuss. Give me a call back when you can. Be as generic as possible. Make them curious and make them want to call you back, because you start selling yourself on if you all of a sudden, hey, this is Cliff, I'm a great realtor, I sell a lot of houses. They're going to associate you with every other letter they got and every other voicemail they got. You know, try to create a little intrigue as to why you're calling and make them want to call you back. That usually works better.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. Good luck, everybody,
today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Great timing. We got about 5 minutes left, and we're up to our last caller. phone number ending in 9368. You're up last. Are you there, Ben? I recognize the name. Hey, Ben.
I was on,
no problem.
I was on mute. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm from the Maryland area. I called yesterday, actually. So I started doing the calls and everything. And I have two basic questions, right? If you talk to the PR person and you get through and everything, and he answers your question, he says that he's interested or he's not, I guess it doesn't really help to call the other numbers on the phone?
No.
Because I know you guys said to call every number.
Yeah. Well, no. You definitely, I think, once you get a hold of the executor, you're good there. When you have the conversation with the executor, you might just ask him, are there other members of the family that should be included in the discussion? Let them decide. But no, it's like once you make the sale, quit, or once you you get the right person, quit calling. You don't need to call everybody once you've contacted the executor.
Right, quit while you're ahead. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly. Yep.
Also, what percentage of the listings would you say end up being on probate? The reason why I ask is because I'm in Prince George's County, and there's a really big college town here, College Park, and I know a lot of landlords, they just buy houses that way they can give them to students to rent out. So what percentage of the total listings do you think will end up being able to be probated? I mean, to be wholesaled.
So what percentage of probate deals are good wholesale opportunities?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, sorry.
I was a realtor and an investor myself. But I was a buy and flip. So in my experience, about 10% of the total people that I spoke to had some compelling urgency and were a good buy and flip candidate. Right. Wholesale, but I used to have to buy for like a 25-30% discount. It really depends on what your profit goal is and how much of a discount you're looking to get. Typically, wholesalers, you don't really need to make as big of a margin. So I would think a much higher percentage than that should be good candidates. And it all depends. I mean, if you're looking to make $50,000 a deal, it's going to be pretty low. If you're looking to make a few thousand a deal, it's going to be, most of them, could be potential candidates. So it really kind of depends on your parameters of what you're looking for.
Let me give you something else.
Sure, go ahead, Tim. Tim, yeah. About 10 grand.
Yeah,
okay, Tim.
Yeah, I was just going to say one other thing. If you're in a college town, one of the things that you'll find, and I'm sure you know this already because you live there, and I used to be in that marketplace, so I'm pretty well aware. And my point would be is that most of those have one or more students living in them if that's what they're doing and they're renting out to students, and those become great income producing properties. And so if you have the ability to do it, it may be that the person who owned it was happy being a landlord, didn't mind dealing with students, and that's okay. But oftentimes when that person who's responsible for that party is not there, and that's the decedent, that party's going to flip. They're going to do something with that. They're not going to keep it in the family. They don't want to be landlords. And what it becomes is a great sale to someone who wants to buy and hold and manage and do all of that. So in your marketplace, one of the things I would encourage you to do is go out and find investors who are looking for income properties so that you've got that as a list to work with. And those are the people that you can flip these to. If you have those people, then you've got something where you have a high value proposition for them, and you need to be aware of the cash flow, not just the resale value, because they're looking for it for cash flow.
Right.
Boy, Tim, that's a great point, because one thing I've noticed locally here in my market, when I look at these online auctions, properties are going for 90-95% of what they're worth online auctions, because there's so many buy and hold investors that the interest rates are low, the rents are high. They're not looking for a big margin. They're just looking for something that cash flows. So that's a great point. They may not be looking for a huge discount. You may have a better profit potential and a wider audience to sell to. I think it's a great idea.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a quick transaction, because at that point they're just looking to add to their portfolio. They've typically got cash. They're operating the way they need to be. They'll take it quickly, get it done fast, and that potentially is your quickest close you're going to find.
Right. still look for buyers that are looking to buy and hold, pretty much.
Well, exactly, and I would potentially even go look at the real estate management companies that are doing that in every college town of any size, and you're in a big college town. In every college town of any size, there are multiple property management companies that are doing that. They're renting apartments and single-family homes that are multi-student housing, so they know what they're doing, and I'd start talking to them. They may be some of your better customers, or what you'll find is they can turn you on to the people that do that in their market. They may have a person who owns 20 houses, they manage them all, and they know that person's always looking for more. That's who you want to get to, that person. So start with those management companies and drill down into them and find those buyers there.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
All right, great call, and we ran exactly 1 hour. Good time management. We finished right on time. We started on time. Guys, I really want to thank you. We had great participation today. I always end these calls the same way, by sincerely thanking each and every one of you that took the time to be here. Particularly thank the ones that actively participated, and I want to challenge each of you, take one thought, one idea, one thing that inspired you on the call today, go out and put it into practice and come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week, and we will talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.